Man United's players and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer are due back at Carrington on the 1st of July to start pre-season training. And Ole Gunnar Solskjaer always said that he wanted the majority of his transfer activity done before the team leaves for the pre-season tour of Australia this summer. Now, we're less than 2 weeks away from the players actually returning to Carrington to start pre-season training. We're less than 3 weeks away from the players leaving to Perth to start the pre-season tour. And Dan James is the only confirmed signing at this point. What is still on Solskjaer's to-do list for this to be an ideal summer? And is it now a point where Man United fans can get concerned about what's going on? Or is everything still going to happen? That's what I'm going to discuss in today's video. Now, before we do get into it, if you are new to United People's TV, make sure you subscribe, hit the notifications bell as well, just down there in the corner. If you're a regular, drop a like on the video. But let's discuss this one. Rewind back to March 2019 and what Solskjaer said about what he expected in the summer transfer window. We will do some business this summer, he said. There's been so many players that have been written about, so many agents in touch with us that want to come here. I'm sure when we decide what we have to do, hopefully we'll get them by pre-season. Now, the reality has been quite far removed from that idealistic look at the summer transfer window. Everybody, Solskjaer, United fans, we all wanted our business conducted early, just like we did back in the Fergie days, where you could sit back on transfer deadline day with your feet up, laughing at other clubs, pandering over dramatic late signings. And we were all hoping that United were going to ignore the last 6 years, where we've basically done exactly that, and move on. But so far, it's not been the case. But what has been on Solskjaer's to-do list this whole summer? Let's talk about that, because firstly, it was a new right winger. And that, in Solskjaer's mind, was going to be Jadon Sancho. The fact that we didn't get into the Champions League may have stopped that, but at least we have a confirmed signing in this position. That's Dan James. A very talented youngster. No one really knows what to expect of him. He's not going to come in and improve our first team straight away, but he's a signing. An exciting prospect who could go on to be a fantastic player for United. Maybe not, but it's a signing, and it's a strengthening in a position where United certainly needed bodies, and that was at right wing. But there are a lot of other positions where United needed strengthening, such as right back. Now, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, he absolutely looks like he's going to be our main man, but United have had multiple bids rejected for Wan-Bissaka, and Crystal Palace reportedly are getting frustrated with United's negotiations of offering too much on add-ons and not enough up front. Now, my feeling here is that United will sign Wan-Bissaka. We will get it over the line. Woodward's digging his heels in and failing in his negotiations, and will eventually pay what he should have paid in the first place. To sign Wan-Bissaka, 50 million, would have been done. Could have moved on to another target. It seems like United are focusing on one target at a time. And that's a bit of a scary idea when you think that there's so many that we have to sign, because not only did we need a new right winger, and we've got Dan James, not only do we need a new right back, a new centre-back is absolutely essential for United this season. And if you look at who we've been linked with, we've had De Ligt, we've had Koulibaly, we've got Maguire at the moment, yet United don't really seem to be any closer to signing that elusive new centre-back. Now, in the current squad, we've got Victor Lindelof, who I've got belief in. Chris Smalling, I think, can be an okay squad player, nothing more than that next season. But Jones, Rojo, Bai, I've got question marks about all of them. I think Tuanzebe can come in and do a job, but in the Championship last season, he was alongside Tyrone Mings, who was more of a leader. And that's what I feel about Lindelof and Tuanzebe, who I think could, maybe be a good partnership for United next year. But both of them need a leader alongside them. Someone like Koulibaly or De Ligt or Maguire. I'm a bit concerned at United's lack of real movement here in terms of a new centre-back, because arguably it's the most important position for Solskjaer to sort this summer, to sort our defence out, which conceded more goals than we did since the 70s, yet there's no real concrete movement. Seems to be Wan-Bissaka at the moment. As I said, one at a time. And a club of United's size should be able to negotiate with multiple players at the same time, but it seems that we're doing one movement at a time, and that doesn't leave enough time to get everything done before pre-season. So I have to admit, in terms of a new centre-back, I'm a little bit worried with that. And if I'm worried about a centre-back, I'm probably more confused about a new defensive midfielder. We've been linked with Ndombele and Didi, Neves, Thomas Partey, but there hasn't really been too much movement for any of them. And again, some of you may argue, defensive midfielder is the most important position that United need to strengthen this summer. Yet there's not been any real clear-cut movement, not in the press, for a holding mid. And maybe this is me looking at it the wrong way. United are going behind the scenes, keeping it all out of the press, and we're making big advances for someone like Ndidi or Neves. I don't think that's the case. I don't think United are good enough in negotiations to keep it under wraps anymore. Everything we seem to do seems to be very public. And I think that will be the case with a holding midfielder. So I am a bit confused as to why we've been linked to so many in the press, but again, have seen very little movement, direct movement for any particular individual. And again, with so little time before the pre-season starts, a bit concerned about that. It's hard not to be. It's not an over-dramatic reaction, but it's very understandable to be worried at this point. Now, something a little bit different, I suppose, if you look at the attacking midfield options that we're looking at. Bruno Fernandes seems to be a clear option that United are going after. The 24-year-old would be a class signing. But again, at this point, nothing is over the line. Nothing is confirmed past conjecture. And there's been plenty of that so far this summer. United fans would like to see Bruno Fernandes completed and done and dusted. But it's not been the case. And it's been a good few weeks now of long drawn-out negotiations as far as the press are concerned. United staying quiet, as you would expect any club to do in any sort of negotiation. But at least in the attacking midfield sense, we've got a clear target. Bruno Fernandes is the name that keeps coming up and coming up and coming up. So that's the expectation is there that if we do sign one, it will be Bruno Fernandes, and you could understand that completely. Yet for all the signings there that we're talking about, a new centre-back, a new right-back, new central midfielder, new winger, we need to sell players, just as importantly this summer. And arguably selling Alexis Sanchez is one of the single most important things that has to happen this summer. We've heard pretty much nothing about United selling Sanchez, other than some murmurs early in the window about him going to Juventus. Other than that, we haven't heard much. And Sanchez leaving United is going to be a complicated deal because he's on so much money at the club. He'll have to take a major pay cut to leave. And it's unlikely that he's going to want to do that. Understandably, I suppose, if you're Sanchez, but we need to get rid of him, to get rid of the culture that's made our dressing room toxic. And without letting Sanchez go, we can't get rid of that. So I'm a bit concerned that there's not been any movement there. Now, there's plenty of time for players to leave the club. It's more important to get your new signings in before the pre-season than it is to get rid of players you don't want anymore before the first Premier League game, I think on the 11th of August against Chelsea. But again, some concerns over the lack of movement and activity there. And the same could be said about Matteo Darmian, Phil Jones, Marcus Rojo. United need to clear their store cupboards, get rid of those jars that are out of date. Get rid of the Deadwood. We are Deadwood FC. Really, we are. And getting rid of those players to make way and room for the new players to come through, to make room for kids to get minutes. That needs to happen as well. So this to-do list that Solskjaer has is just growing longer and longer and longer the more you look at it. And the scary thing is that to-do list could verge from being improbable to impossible when you look at some of the unexpected things that could happen this summer. Will United have to replace Paul Pogba? Strengthening United's midfield this summer was always going to be a tough job, but letting one of the world's most talented footballers go and replacing him, as well as signing a new holding midfielder, that makes that task even harder for Solskjaer. Now, I've had everything I've had to say on Pogba leaving. Make sure you click. I think the video is going to pop up now. I've already said everything I need to say about Pogba leaving, but if he does leave, Solskjaer will have to replace him too. And I don't think he would have expected to do that this summer. And I suppose the same goes for Romelu Lukaku, who is doing everything really to angle for a move away. Now, Lukaku might not be the perfect striker for United, but he scores goals. And this squad does not have many goals in it already. So take Lukaku out of it and replacing them as well as bolstering it underneath as well, it's tough. Top-class strikers, there aren't that many. Sure, Mason Greenwood might come through and surprise us all and go on the same sort of upward trajectory that Marcus Rashford went on when he broke into the first team. But that's a big risk. And United might end up having to take risks this summer if we don't complete the sort of activity that we want to in the summer transfer window. And if Lukaku gets what he wants, he will leave this summer. So maybe we'll have to replace Lukaku as well as Pogba, but maybe not just those two as well. What about David De Gea, who is still stalling over a new contract? What do we do if he leaves? Do we replace him? I very much think that if De Gea does leave United, we're going to replace him from within. Now, that's going to be either Romero, Pereira, or Dean Henderson. And out of those options, I think Romero's a good shot stopper in what he does, but I wouldn't have any true belief in Romero, no offence, Sergio, in him replacing De Gea. From what I've seen of Henderson last season, Henderson seems like a more competent ball-playing, modern goalkeeper. Because just like the fullback position changed, the goalkeeper position has changed with modern football. They're expected to be in possession more. And that's something that De Gea doesn't do anywhere near as good as Ederson or Alisson. City and Liverpool have got those sort of modern goalkeepers, and maybe Henderson could be United. He's had a fantastic season at Sheffield United. But as well as buying a new centre-back, buying a new right-back, buying a new defensive midfielder, buying a new right-winger, buying a new attacking midfielder, maybe Solskjaer's going to have to replace Lukaku, replace Pogba, and replace De Gea, as well as selling Sanchez, Darmian, Jones, Rojo. This to-do list is impossible to do in one summer when you really think about it, especially if those unexpected things happen. And there's still, I suppose, internal things that have to happen. Rashford signing a new contract, Matters just signed one, apparently that's going to become official very soon. What's going on with the director of football? United's to-do list is like a long Christmas dinner shopping list. There's so many things on there, it's hard to prioritise. But something needs to happen. And I think that's why United fans are getting frustrated. We're about a month or so into the transfer window now. We've got Dan James. This list that we haven't ticked off is substantial. And that's to put it bluntly. Solskjaer made it very clear that he wanted his business done early in this summer transfer window. But so far, we've signed Dan James and it's been anything but swift and decisive. United are stuck in negotiations for Wan-Bissaka. Haven't really had much movement about a centre-back or a centre-mid. Maybe Bruno Fernandes. What about all the players we're selling? What about Lukaku and Pogba? Conjecture, stories everywhere, and an ever-increasing to-do list. Now, what do you think about this at the moment? Do you think it's at this point where United fans should get worried about how we're acting in the transfer window, or is there still enough time for us to get everything sorted before we kick off the Premier League season against Chelsea? And one thing's for sure, it really looks like we're heading into the pre-season without the squad that Solskjaer wants. That's not what he wanted, but can United resolve it before we kick off the season? Let me know what you think about that in the comments below. Is it just an overreaction to get worried now? Or is now the time to get worried? Let me know what you think in the comments as always. If you are new to United People's TV and you're still here, make sure you subscribe. But until next time, take it easy.